We're speaking on Treaty 6 territory, and I acknowledge the Métis people who share a deep connection to this land. I'm Lorne Dach, Alberta NDP Critic for Transportation and Economic Corridors. I'm pleased to be joined by Mike Parker, President of Health Sciences Association of Alberta, which represents paramedics and many other critical healthcare workers. And I'm joined by Don Getchell, President of the Towing and Recovery Association of Alberta. Thank you, Don, for hosting us here today at Oil Country Towing. Mike and Don represent Alberta working people who frequently put themselves at risk in order to help others. Tow truck operators and paramedics, as well as fire, police, construction workers, and highway maintenance workers, routinely find themselves working right next to heavy, fast-moving traffic at all times of day and night, in all kinds of Alberta weather. These working people have asked for some additional road safety rules to protect them and to help them do their jobs. And earlier this year, it seemed we had a consensus that all drivers approaching any roadside workers should slow down and folks in the right lane should move over. But bizarrely, and without telling anyone, the government decided to water down this protection and change the rules so only the right lane slows down to 60. Now we have a situation where two highway lanes suddenly have different speed limits, and that's going to actually increase the risk to roadside workers and to drivers. Now, to hear directly from the experts, I'll pass things over to Don and then to Mike. Don?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. For years, we have been asking for change, and we finally got the chance to have that change when the bill passed last year through the Parliament, through the legislation. We were very sad to hear that the law had changed. Instead of having everybody slow down to 60 to just having one lane travel 60 and the other adjacent lanes travel highway speed. This creates unnecessary risk for the motoring public and for us as workers on the roadside. Many times I've been on a situation on an Alberta highway where I've seen somebody that is respecting the tower or the emergency vehicle and slowing down, and they try to move over to give some room and they almost are getting rear-ended. We've also had several incidences where secondary collisions have happened for this exact reason. This is what kind of scared me as the president of the association when I heard the news, is I was just, this is going to help, or this is going to prevent people from lawfully moving over safely. In 2003, when the Traffic Safety Act was enacted, this became law that you were supposed to move over and slow to 60 for tow trucks. In 2023, we're seeing the exact same thing with no change. In 2003, our industry was excited to see these laws that didn't exist before, but in 2023, it's almost like the laws don't exist. Until the government creates some sort of educational program for awareness, or they increase the enforcement, nothing or very little will change. In 12 years as being a tow truck company owner, we have had 14 major collisions, 2 involving injuries where our operators had to go to the hospital in an ambulance. It's hard to speak about these incidences because I had to personally attend them myself. These incidences, both of them, were very preventable. Our operators were just working roadside with the emergency lights engaged and were struck by vehicles not slowing down. We've also had several of our pieces of equipment damaged and some of them written off. We were hoping that this change would be a positive thing for our industry, but unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Mike?
Thank you both for your comments. Good morning. My name is Mike Parker. I'm the president of the Health Sciences Association of Alberta. And I'm here on behalf of the thousands of paramedics who respond to calls for help, calls that sometimes require them to put themselves in danger. That includes responding to emergencies on and next to Alberta highways. Alberta needs move-over legislation as one of the only 2 provinces in this country that currently does not have it. And we had an opportunity to make these dangerous situations for our first responders, for our safety crews, for our construction workers, and all Albertans a little bit safer, but the change that's coming into effect today, we have missed this opportunity. We need to make improvements to the rules because more than 500 workers in Alberta are injured every single year on our highways. And that's why legislation was passed unanimously to have all traffic slow to 60 when passing emergency vehicles and roadside crews. And that's why it is so confusing that this government decides to unilaterally change the rules to allow people to drive at 110 kilometers an hour right next to a vehicle going 60, which is right next to our emergency and road crews doing their jobs. Most of us have driven Highway 2. Can you imagine one lane doing 60 while the fast lane keeps doing 110 and faster? We weren't consulted at any time during this process. And if we had been, we would have told government that they must create conditions for serious incidences that are happening today. What is going into effect today does not strengthen the rules to protect roadside workers. It maintains that risk and increases that risk. HSAA agrees. We need to be doing everything that we can to get the number of incidents down to zero. So we're joining the call for implementation and effective measures to actually improve the safety for our workers. We also want to be consulted so that those rules can be enforced. After all, our members are the ones that are out there responding to emergencies. They are willing to put themselves at risk to care for Albertans who need it the most. They best know and understand what the dangers truly are in this job. They know what happens and what's needed to make their job safer. And we need to be doing everything we can to keep them safe. Thank you. Did you catch that?
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you sharing your expertise. Now, we believe passionately that every working person has the right to go home safely at the end of their shift. That is everyone's goal in updating these regulations. The government screwed this up, but it's not hard to fix. Let's deliver the protection that we all agreed on so that folks who are out on the side of the road in the snow at 3 a.m. to help someone can save themselves and stay safe. Thank you, and we're happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you're on Zoom, it's the raise hand function. If you're on the phone, it's *9. We'll start with, on the Zoom, please state your name and outlet and who you'd like to direct your question to.
Issues, but I'm hoping, Lorne, you can explain what exactly you're calling for today, because my understanding is this rule is in effect today, and if I understand the minister's previous comments, they've probably spent about $1.5 million on public education in ahead of rolling it out. So what are you calling for today? To go back to the legislature and go back to the drawing board, or what are you calling for exactly?
It's a very simple ask of the minister, and something that this government is capable of doing, as they've shown they're capable of pausing things. And we want the minister to put a pause on this piece of change to the regulations and make it so that the all lanes of traffic have to slow down and move over as we had before and as we unanimously passed in Bill 5. So it's a simple ask. Simply revert back to where we had been with the passage of Bill 5 and use common sense to keep the uniform speed in all lanes that are passing a roadside worker with his lights flashing.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering if the minister, when he was explaining this, the changes to the rules that were previously announced, he referred to studies on the issue, and he said that there were studies on the issue that showed that it's actually safest for there to only be the closest lane slowing down in order to keep the free flow of traffic in the other lanes. For example, if there are 5 lanes of traffic, that it's safer to avoid disrupting the flow of traffic, and it's dangerous to ask, for example, 5 lanes of traffic to all decrease at the same time. So I'm wondering kind of where you're getting your information on this from, and what studies you might be in tune with, or where you're kind of getting
right.
advice on what exactly is the safest way to go with this.
I understand your question. Thank you. You're right. The minister did fail to bring forward any studies to justify this change, and also failed to consult with stakeholders who were very concerned about this. I understand today the minister is actually finally meeting with the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association right on the day where he's supposedly implementing this. So perhaps he's open to changing this. We hope he is. The resources that I'm using are people in the field, like Mike Parker and Don Getchell, whose workers are on the roadside every day facing the risks that are caused by high speeds of passing traffic, and they're the ones who are telling us directly that their drivers are reporting that these are increased risks and they fear for it.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller. Michelle, your line should be unmuted.
Hello. Hi, I would very much like to ask questions, but I haven't been able to hear a word of this news conference. So I am very interested in this topic. I don't really know what you're calling for, what's going on. So yeah, just wanted to provide that comment because I don't know what to ask.
Hi, Michelle. We can reach out to you after the presser. Sorry about the audio issue, if that helps. Sorry about that. We'll just do one more pass for questions, and for anyone who's had technical issues, we'll reach out to you later. We'll just do one more pass for questions on the Zoom. It's raise hand. On the phone, it's *9. Just check with questions in the area. Yep, we'll go here.
Don, you're out on the highway. Maybe just describe what makes it dangerous to have what makes it slow lane dangerous beside a fast lane. Just describe that for me.
Who's the question for?
Oh, go ahead. So in my personal experience in working in the industry, when you have a slow lane of traffic that is legally required to move over and slow down, you're creating a recipe to have a secondary incident. When the vehicle is going highway speed, it can't slow down as fast, and when the other vehicle moves over, that's going to create an incident where the other vehicle is going to have to make an emergency because they're going to be doing highway speed. The person that moved over is doing 60 as required by this new law, and they're going to get rear-ended, or they're going to have to do an emergency stop, and then it's just going to be a snowball effect. It's going to start a traffic snake, and then that traffic snake will move down even further back, and that can create another secondary incident. And I understand, I guess, the reasoning on a multi-lane highway, but I work a multi-lane highway every day, and I see this every day. Our guys are out there on Highway 2. We operate out of Leduc and Edmonton, and the stretch between the airport and the city limits is one of the busiest ones in the province, according to the traffic stats. And we see it all the time when somebody is obeying the law and slowing down for the tower. The person behind them isn't, even in the same lane or in the adjacent lane if they try to move over, and there's a secondary incident. We've had to respond and send more equipment out for secondary incidents more times than I can count. I don't have the exact statistic, but I can tell you from personal experience, I've seen it happen in the last 20 years, multiple times a year. Me? Yeah. It's Don Getchell, and I'm the president of the Towing and Recovery Association of Alberta. GETSCHEL.
You want to comment for me as well on that same question? On the same question. Absolutely. Listen, the safest process we need to look at here is the simplest one. Something that everybody can follow and understand. When there's an incident with the emergency lights on the side of the highway, everybody slows down. It's that simple. Now you've got multiple lanes doing 110, 120, one lane trying to do 60. This is the chaos. Our folks are busy trying to do life-saving procedures, trying to get vehicles out of ditches, trying to do their work. Drivers aren't as focused on this, and now they've got to now compete with vehicles doing 110 in the left lane, vehicles stopped in the right lane. How fast am I supposed to go again? Consistent, simple. Everybody slow down, do 60, let us do our work, let's all go home safe. It's that simple.
Thank you. We'll just do one more pass for questions. Anyone in seeing? Well, just one more pass for questions on Zoom. I don't know, Michelle, if you're able to pop in there now.
No, I'm sorry. I still can't hear anything. I mean, I would like to talk to Mike Parker, but again, I can't hear what he has to say. So
Can you hear this, Mike?
I guess we'll just leave it. Thanks very much.
We'll reach out to you, Michelle. We'll just check for questions outside here today. Any more questions? Seeing none, that concludes our press conference
Fontaine.
today.